with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the Republic, which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next thing I would like to do is to share the mission and vision of SORTA and Metro. Michelle, do we happen to have a slide of that?
We do not.
Okay. I do not have it fully memorized. Do you all have it, Andy?
Sorry, we really skipped the vision and mission.
Okay.
Move on to the minute.
What?
We can just actually go ahead and move on to the minute.
Okay. So I'd like to move forward with the approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes from the February meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Second.
Thank you. Whoever just did that.
B.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say right. Any abstentions? I think we're good. Okay. Next. Sorry, my agenda just switched up on me. We're going to have a internal audit briefing.
All right.
Who am I turning this over to? Sorry, I don't have a name.
This will be to Joe Schmidt and Ross Katz from Clark
Yes,
Schaefer.
we're going to tag team it. This is Joe Schmidt right now, and Ross will join in a second. Hello, everyone. Good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Joe and Ross, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us here. In cyberspace, it's actually, I guess, very appropriate that we're talking today about the IT infrastructure and also the vulnerability assessment. So, doing this remotely makes a lot of sense to be talking about these types of items. So, what we did is we went through and looked at the infrastructure that is currently in place in the IT realm, and also did a vulnerability assessment of the systems. And so Ross, he's actually a manager in our IT space, and he's really the one who went through a lot of this and worked with your team to determine, what some of our recommendations are, what we found within the environment, and he'll really be walking through a lot of that today. So, Ross, if you'd like to take over, that would be great.
Sure, Joe. The page up there, the management summary and the conclusion really is the first part of this. So the conclusion is, overall, we found that SORTA has taken measures to reduce its attack surface by securing those systems. So really, what we found, we would expect to find from a quasi-government institution of about the same size, and so the security was at or greater than what we were expected to find. That's basically what the conclusion statement there is saying. If we keep going to page 4 and page 5, kind of just has the summary of what we reviewed, just like Joe said, the vulnerability assessment, and then also looking at the technology of like the DMZ and the network. The next page, page 6, is where we actually start to get into things. So just a little primer again on our recommendations. So we have informational all the way up to high. So informational is kind of just like this would be a good idea. There's no real risk here, all the way up to something that's high. And what high really means in the context of the assessment we were doing with IT and security, it really just means that there should be a plan to remediate whatever we're discussing as quickly as possible. So it doesn't mean go out today and fix it. Most of the time, that's not a good thing in cybersecurity or IT to run out and fix it right away. But a plan should be in place, to address it. So if we look at observation number one, network vulnerabilities, what observation number one is it's kind of a roll up of all the other, network vulnerabilities. So if there was, say, 100, this would be kind of the overall, how's the state of the network type thing. So you can see it did get a high ranking. That's due from a couple things that we'll discuss here in a minute, some subsequent observations. But all this observation said is, hey, there is some, vulnerabilities on the network, and the recommendation would be to address them based on severity. So look at, the vulnerabilities on the network and, address them from what is the highest risk vulnerability, and then address each one of them. If there are any questions, just please feel free to stop me and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to go to observation number two for right now. So observation number two, again, will probably be part of that first observation also. However, observation number two is high-risk network protocols. So there's some protocols, ways that computers talk back and forth that have been used for a long time. So the way that they communicate is kind of older, I guess is the best way to say it. The problem with that is when this was first established, people didn't think, hey, there has to be a way to encrypt it. There has to be a way so somebody can't listen in on what two computers are talking about. So the problem with that is a lot of the times when we're doing things today, we kind of expect that that communication be secure, that traffic go back and forth to be secure. So we found a couple of the protocols that aren't secure inside the environment. Again, this is pretty typical of a lot of organizations because these protocols were and have been very popular in the past, and more recently, though, they're starting to get phased out for more secure protocols. So Telnet and FTP are the two we're talking about here. The recommendation, again, is to use some of the more secure protocols. So like secure FTP instead, or SSH, something like that, to basically secure those communications back and forth. Going to go ahead then to observation number three. So SSL sessions and strength. So this one is kind of unique too. 5 years ago, we really wouldn't have been talking about this, just because even a vulnerability scanner, it didn't show up anything usually related to SSL session strength or sessions as a vulnerability. So what this has to do with, though, is again the secure communication between two computers to make sure that the traffic that they're passing back and forth, somebody can't stay there on the line and be able to intercept it. So it's secure. So again, about 5 years ago, we really wouldn't have been talking about this, but with companies like Google and their Chrome browser pushing HTTPS everywhere, and basically the push for encryption, this is becoming more and more, and you see more and more vulnerability scanners, different security software basically flag this as a vulnerability if the encryption is weak or there's something wrong with the encryption. So that's why this, will come up as a vulnerability. Again, it's something that should be addressed just because, again, it's a little bit older. And that's a recommendation. If you go to the next page, it shows a chart. So our overall recommendation for encryption to standards is if you can base yourself on a standard. So we understand, that all organizations might not be, have to be PCI compliant or have to comply with FIPS or some other standard. But if you take the standard and say, okay, we're going to try to move towards being or using this as our standard, so like PCI, we're going to try to, use PCI as our standard. What it allows you to do then is say you at least have a list that you can say, okay, these encryptions aren't considered security longer. So that's what this chart is. If you look and you see a no, then that means that whatever body it's representing, whatever standard it's representing, either PCI or FIPS, if it says no, that means it's generally not considered secure any longer by that standard. If you see the column says CSE best practices, that's a combination between the two, so whichever is more stringent. So that's why you see in a couple columns that there's a yes, in like FIPS, but there's a no in CSE.
Excuse me, it would help me a little bit if you could just kind of use less acronyms, or at least let me know what those acronyms mean, because I don't quite understand all that stuff sometimes. PCI to FIPS.
Sure. So PCI has to do with credit cards. So if you have to be PCI compliant to accept credit cards.
Okay.
So it's a organization basically that has standards that everybody agrees that there should be these practices going on to be able to accept credit cards. FIPS has to do with same thing, financial transactions, financial institutions. So it's just two of the more widely known standards for encryption, or two that have standards that you can compare across. So all the other acronyms on here are just different types of ways to scramble up the communication between two different computers. So if you see under ciphers where it says like DES 5656, you don't necessarily need to know, what that means per se, but it's just, again, a way to mix up the communication so somebody can, again, sit on the, the network and listen to what two computers are talking about.
And this chart isn't sort of specific, right? This is more.
Nope. So this chart kind of is a generic recommendation. So, best encryption standards. Consider best encryption standards, best practices.
So here at SORTA, we don't actually process credit cards. We actually use the third party to process credit cards who is PCI compatible.
Yeah, and so what the recommendation actually is just adopting an encryption standard. So it's showing a couple different encryption standards and best practices. So it's not saying, you should adopt one, based on the chart or anything like that. Just a suggestion. The next observation number 4, concerns end-of-life systems. So it's talking, we found a couple of end-of-life systems, some Windows 7 systems, Windows Server 2003 box. So again, the recommendation or the reason it's a risk is, the manufacturer, Microsoft, doesn't provide patches anymore for the equipment for Server 2008, Windows 7, or 2003. So the recommendation basically is to update those systems when possible. We understand that it's not always possible to upgrade them right away, but again, have a plan, get that high ranking on that observation to develop a plan as soon as possible to say, we're going to move away from these,
How prevalent is Windows 7 in SORTA?
If I remember correctly, I don't believe it's all that prevalent. So most of these systems were if I remember correctly, were to maintain one system. So it would be that it was still being used for, XYZ system, and because it was written for, say, Server 2003. So, like a Windows XP, that Server 2003 is the equivalent server version of Windows XP. So it would be like the software was still written for Windows XP, so you have to keep it on a Windows XP system to keep it going. So I think there was few and far between.
And Microsoft is no longer patching or giving out updates for Windows 7, correct?
Correct. So Windows 7 and Server 2008. So
You tend to see kind of a chart of which applications are driving some of this, and which maybe something out in one of the facilities, right? Where you have some local something that's driving the server that way. It's kind of hard to interpret at this high level.
Also, part of our capital improvement plan addresses this on this calendar year.
So after this calendar year, will we still be running Windows 7?
We will not be.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to say that we do have more in-depth information if anyone is needing some of that. We've certainly spoken to Patrick, so they're really aware of a lot of this information. So obviously for our report, we're a little at a higher level, but there is more detail behind it. So to let you know.
I guess the question would be, I know in Lycoming, right, we had a couple of single plant activities that were just locally. We had old software for these very reasons, but it wasn't that everybody in the facility was using, or everybody in the company was using the really old software. So I guess that's kind of, I think maybe is where the answer is going to. Is this a everybody's laptop's got a problem, or there's just a couple of spots where you have these?
This is Pat Giblin. Most of the systems, as were pointed out, are legacy environments that we are actually in the middle of processing and upgrading. And Windows 7 required some additional testing because of a lot of the legacy applications. But we are past that. We're into deployment. And as Daryl said, those systems will all be gone well before the end of the year.
Go ahead and move on then to observation number 5. So observation number 5 is talking about SNMP, which stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. So basically, it's a way for network devices to share information. Again, similar to what we were talking about before with some of those high-risk protocols. Back when this was first developed, it wasn't really a thought that you need to encrypt or protect or anything like that communication between devices. So this is very similar to that. It wasn't thought of. The other thing is a lot of manufacturers, printer manufacturers, switch manufacturers, they set that community name, which is kind of like the password for SNMP, to a default value. So in this case, public. You see sometimes actually just community or something like that. So it's set to a default value. So anybody that tries a default value, in theory, can interact with that. So the only issue is sometimes you can actually change values of the device too. So maybe if it was a switch, you could tell it to do something, right, to execute something. If you knew that the community string where the password in this case was the default value. So all this observation is saying is that recommend update the community string or the password to something other than the default, and to, again, come up with a strong password, basically. Observation number 6. So as Patrick said too, if I remember correctly, there have been a lot of legacy systems, and documentation has been developed as things have gone on, because it's really hard to document things that happened before you were here, and maybe trying to figure out what's going on in the system, maybe for lack of a better way to say it. So the observation number 6 is just talking about the documentation inside the environment. So basically this observation is saying that going forward, as new systems are developed, as things change, to ensure that proper documentation is happening. So when somebody else comes into the environment, maybe, or something changes in the environment, we have a good base of documentation to actually rely upon. So we can actually see, in or on the network, maybe, what does this server do? What ports are open? What route does it have to the outside? What route maybe does it have on the inside too? That sort of thing. Even what are our baselines? I know that one's in here also. But again, providing a good base documentation basically for everything we're doing, IT and cybersecurity related. That's what that recommendation says.
Yeah, and Ross, just to piggyback on that a little bit, a lot of these responses and a lot of what we're doing required some additional tools. Those tools have all been procured, and we're in the process of deploying those, which will accelerate not only our Windows 7 deployment, but will allow us to document things as we go along, and is also facilitating, our better processes. But we've already procured that. We've begun implementing that, and some of those legacy environments, and the board's actually seen these through the procurement of our cloud-based phone system and the Trapeze move, are really helping to accelerate our migration away from some of those older technologies to meet these audit responses.
Can I ask a question? The deficiencies you're finding, these legacy issues, is this common practice in public sector entities?
As I said in the conclusion, I think it's at or even a little bit above other public sector entities. So a lot of the times, again, unfortunately, you do see this type of thing, with legacy systems, because we have to maintain this one. So right now, we don't have I'm making something up, by the way, but maybe we have to maintain this system, and it is running on Windows 2000 or Windows Server 2003, and right now there isn't an alternative to go to something else. And so usually they go a little bit slower to get off and get on a newer system. That's what you see a lot of the time. So I would say it's again at or above its counterparts.
This question might be for Daryl or Pat. Does the organization have a strategic plan around IT infrastructure protocols, how we keep up with these changes that are obviously constantly evolving?
Yes. Absolutely.
As a novice listening to this report and reading it, and then even hearing what he just said and the conclusions about being moderately involved, I guess I'm just worried that we had several things that were really high risk, and just wondering how proactive we are with mitigating those things.
If you think through what our strategic plan has been for this year, one of our focuses is on our IT. We staffed our IT department differently, and it is in our budget and our strategic plan to really upgrade. It's one of the reasons that we've taken so many things to the cloud, and we've changed the structure of the organization IT-wise. You will see a lot of movement on the IT portion of the organization this calendar year, and we have budgeted for that.
Great.
I think it's safe to say, Rob, this is one of those areas that, as we were starved for funding, probably over the last 10 years or longer, has been not paid enough attention to. And credit to Daryl team, Pat, to recognize that we need to upgrade. That's why I think, as we talk through the different ways for even fair collection and data tracking for running the systems that need to be upgraded and all come together.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. There's just, as you listen to this, seems to be some very high level, if you don't do these things, financial and infrastructure risk on the back end, that if you just keep letting it go, the organization then is put at a higher risk anyway.
No, you're absolutely right.
We've already upgraded several systems, and we'll continue throughout this year. Again, we actually budgeted for these corrections for this year. We've changed the structure of our IT department to make sure that we could handle upgrading our systems that we needed to upgrade this year.
Great. Look forward to it.
So observation number 7 kind of goes along with some of the things we've been talking about as far as, like Pat was saying, upgrades and things like that. So it's logging and network management tools. So there's a couple things in this, but basically it's a recommendation to have tools to help, the IT and cybersecurity people, be able to do their job more efficiently. So the acronym that you see in there is SIEM, S-I-E-M, so Security Information Event Management. What that's for is it basically helps track if there is weird stuff going on inside the network. So again, making up a hypothetical, if Ross Pats normally works 8 to 5, and all of a sudden we see a login from China at 3 in the morning or something like that, it's going to alert somebody, because that isn't typical of how Ross Pats works. So that's kind of an idea of what a SIEM is. So it looks at user behavior logs, that sort of things, and says, hey, something looks weird over here, you should check it out. And then there's also some tools that would help with configurations, and that's what we say down at the bottom of that observation of risk, basically to help more easily manage the devices that we're controlling. And so the recommendation is to investigate, implementing tools inside the environments to help with these things. So to help with both the security of the environment, but also the configuration of devices.
And again, the ITSM management tool is in our budget for this calendar year.
Then observation number 8 is a ticket system, or a ticket-based system. So I know when we were talking, through the different IT department procedures and sort of thing, trying to get an idea of how the workflow works and everything like that. Again, having worked in a IT department for years myself, being able to see, when somebody said, basically, what have you guys done today? In IT, I think you get that a lot. But being able to show, again, this is what we're currently working on. This is what we have worked on. And also providing feedback, to end users or, again, whoever might ask. Be able to say, these are the things currently going on basically in our world. Or, again, maybe that we've, closed out 20 different issues today. And so, we're working through X, Y, and Z. So that's a recommendation, is to implement a ticket system inside the environment to help log, any issues that might come up. And then that is the end of the actual report. I don't believe we were going to get into the appendix just because it provides some more granular detail.
Yep, correct. So thank you all for that. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. And obviously we're your internal audit department. So if you have any questions even after this, feel free to reach out. We'll do what we can to answer them, and we'll work with your IT department to help things move along.
We'll have a work plan, right? I mean, usually we see kind of the outstanding line items.
Yes, we do have that, and I'll go over that in the next meeting.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Words right out of my mouth. Does anybody else have questions before we move on to the financial reports? Okay, I'm going to take silence as no one has questions. Michelle, do you want to go through the financial reports for March?
Absolutely. Thank you, Heidi. I know we typically start off with good news, and it's hard to say that we have good news during this time, but with all the challenges that we've had, we do have some good news this month. During the month, this is the first month of COVID-19 response, started mid-month. Even with that, we were able to manage and keep our total expenses down for the month, coming in $353,000 below budget for the month. We did see an increase of about $100,000 in expenses just related to the COVID-19. So even with those extra expenses, we were able to keep our overall budget down, expenses down. The other good news is President Trump did sign the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, otherwise known as CARES, on March 27th. We're expected to receive approximately $33 million in funding, and no local matches required. This is to help all of the transit systems with their operations costs related to the COVID-19. And one other item of good news that's not on there is I'd like to congratulate Donna Adkins for her 40th anniversary with SORNA.
Woo! Nice done. Congratulations.
Hey,
I
Michelle,
always do. Donna's a strong woman.
Well, thank you very much. Just to remind you all, I was 9 when I started here.
29 now.
9, yeah.
Hey,
Thank you.
that $33 million, is there anything we have to do to get it, or anything we have to prove that we deserve?
They will be treating it similar to how we receive our federal 5307 funds. So we will have to submit reports on a continuous basis to get reimbursed for any type of expenses. So we probably will not receive it all in one lump sum. For us, strategically, we're looking at trying to do it on a monthly basis to draw down to get reimbursed on a monthly basis versus trying to work to the end to receive the full $33 million.
We'll be applying for the money based on money spent, and the FTA will approve it and then transfer the money.
Will you all be able to keep us posted on how you're utilizing that money and where it's going into the budget and how the budget's being adjusted?
We're working through that right now because on this slide, you'll see the preliminary budget for the second half of 2020 and the first half of 2021. I'm skipping to the last bullet point for the city funding request is actually going to be due. This was a challenge for us because with the election, with the levy, we were looking at July 1st, if the levy passes, that we would be strictly then under the sales tax earnings instead of the city earnings tax. So now with the delay in the elections, we won't, if the levy passes, we won't receive those first funds until the end of this year with the sales tax going into effect October 1st. So we are working on our budgets this week, trying to look what it looks like if we are with the city earnings tax on an ongoing basis, and then also if the levy passes. So it's adjusting for the year.
You will see the drawdown as we make it from the federal government in our budgeting process and in the P&L when you see the P&L each month. We'll call out what we're actually able to draw down.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thaddeus, did you have a question? I think I interrupted.
So I think I just want to know, could that money be used anywhere? I think that was kind of explained.
Yes. So looking at the other challenges, obviously the COVID-19 is our biggest challenge. Nobody anticipated this. It clearly was not budgeted anyway, in our response. So we're constantly keeping up to date with what's going on in the federal government, the state government, and the local government, and what those changes mean for SORTA and how do we respond to them, both financially and with the operations. Obviously, I think all of you are aware that access was closed for 2 weeks. It opened back up yesterday, and the fares were reinstated this past Sunday as well.
Access was closed, but the service was still being provided.
That's correct.
Michelle, can you give us just a sense of what that $100,000 in the additional expenses because of COVID looks like?
Sure. If you want to skip to the last slide in the presentation, we don't have the breakdown of all of the details yet, but you'll see these are some of the impacts from it. So that we purchased face masks, sanitation spray, also the equipment to sanitize the buses, hand sanitizer, and bacterial wipes, the protective shields. We're also going to be implementing the new Family Leave Act. That has not occurred yet. There will also be some IT expenses as well as the work from home mandate came into place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll skip back up, Chanel, sorry. Next slide. So looking at the monthly financial report for the month ending March 31st, you'll see that the total revenue is of $7.3 million was unfavorable to budget by about $727,000 or 9%. Total expenses of $8.1 million were favorable to budget by $350,000 or 4.1%. Deficit before using the prior year surplus and designated reserves to balance was $798,000. Prior year surplus of $445,000 and designated reserves of $353,000 were used to balance the operating results in March. Total operating results before reserves were unfavorable by $377,000 for the month and favorable by $102,000 year to date. The most significant factors for March, obviously, is fare revenue was unfavorable to budget by $323,000. Non-transportation revenue was unfavorable to budget by $93,000, primarily due to the investment income being unfavorable by $30,000, unearned pass revenue of $26,000, and advertising income of $20,000. CPS contract revenue was unfavorable to budget by $254,000 due to the school closures as of March 17th. Employee wages and benefits were favorable to budget by $172,000, or 2.6%, primarily due to favorable operator and maintenance wages, and parts and supplies are favorable by $40,000, or 7.6%. Any questions on the
side? Obviously, this only shows a half month of COVID impact. Right?
That's correct.
And my understanding is we were running ahead of budget and prior year up until the time it hit, right? So
that's correct.
Impact had just in 2 weeks.
And this only included 3 days of the free fares, the 29th, 30th, the 31st. Just looking at the other operating expenses in the month, we broke this down a little bit. The other operating expenses were 9.3% of total revenue and were favorable in the month by $80,000 or 10.5%. These are services for outsourced services, legal, audit fees, etc. And then the last slide, the COVID-19, we pretty much touched on most of it. Just wanted to mention the last section, which was, and these are some of the items that we've lost revenue due to COVID-19. Obviously, fare revenue, CPS revenue, other contract revenue, and the city earnings tax. We're expecting that to be reduced. I reached out to the city this past week, and they are indicating about a 19% decrease in the city earnings revenue. And that was based off a study from UC that they're using. So we are going to be using that estimate in our budget going forward too. Any questions on the financials at all?
Yeah, just so I'm clear. So on the fare revenue, you're going to say to the feds, we lost this amount of fares. Here's an example. Here's a receipt. Here's our lost fares. And now we're going to use that to be compensated somehow out of this $33 million, correct?
Correct. We have to show all the operations costs. They are allowing all operations costs to be submitted for reimbursement. So typically the fairs would offset those costs. We will then use the CARES Act funds to offset those costs instead.
And so hypothetically, had we never charged anyone to ride our buses because of the pandemic, we could go to the feds and say, hey, feds, this is the money we lost because of the pandemic, and they reimburse us.
Correct. For all of our operating costs.
Now, the CARES Act will address operating costs. I don't believe it addresses fares directly. So we'll have to draw down operating costs to offset that.
So what, fares are not included in the $33 million?
Indirectly.
Right.
Okay.
Indirectly. So typically we would only be able to ask for reimbursement for the additional costs related to COVID-19, but what they're allowing under the CARES Act is all operating costs, not just costs related to COVID-19.
But the most important thing is we're continuing to provide the service.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Michelle around the financial reports for March? Okay, great. Let's move on to our action item, which is the investment funds report. Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you, Heidi. So the investment of funds report for the month ending March 31st, 2020. Our total securities have a balance of $12,910,804 with an investment return of 1.33%. Change in cash during the month of March was $5,143,872 used in cash. This is mostly due to fuel hedging contracts. We had some margin calls due to declining oil prices, benefits payments, 2 OPERS payments, and lost fare revenue. The monthly investment income was $23,251, and our year-to-date investment income is $90,893. Any questions on the investment of funds report?
Doesn't look so good.
This is where we'll definitely be using the CARES Act funds to replenish these funds.
You had the bus cost in there as well, right?
I'm sorry, Rod, what was that?
Didn't you have the bus cost in there that from the last time we met? You had 7 buses that you needed to spread out over these dollars.
Yes, those buses will be coming in later this year, yes.
Any other questions around investment of funds report?
All great.
Okay. Good. Rod, were you saying something, or did I?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we need to take a voice vote on this, correct? I would like to make a motion to approve the investment of funds report for March.
I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say right. Any abstentions? Okay. That is approved. And unless, does anybody have any new business? Otherwise, I will adjourn so that we can move on to planning and operations. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
everybody. Welcome to the Planning and Operations Committee meeting. Is this what I'm supposed to do?
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. We'll just roll right into this. Although the squares are still little over there, wherever they are. You know, the shared
Can you
screen.
see me at all? Where I get in?
No, I cannot see you.
You can't see me. Okay. What about? Maybe I'm missing it. All right. Now can you?
Yeah, but you're upside down. All right, everybody, let's stand up and do your Pledge of Allegiance wherever you may be, facing whatever direction you so choose. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Nicely done, everyone. We have a Planning and Operations Committee packet from, it looked like February was our last meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. You should see the minutes on your screen in front of you and would love a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. I'll second it. So moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Tremendous. John, give us some good news. For the love of God, give us some good news.
Yes, sir. There's always good news, no doubt. But this morning we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're not going to bore you with data and numbers and facts and figures. We're going to talk about what's happening here at Metro. And these words that you see in your packet there and on the screen really came to mind and stood out for me for how our workforce is performing. And that's that adversity does not build character, it reveals it. So let's talk about how some of that character has been revealed here at Metro. We've been exhibiting a tremendous spirit of cooperation and communication. And that starts at the top. It starts with the daily call between top leadership of management and ATU, discussing the news of the day, the future plans that are coming, working together to find solutions. We also have a tremendous communications team that has been providing regular organization-wide updates as well as external communications to our customers and stakeholders about all COVID-19 related news at Metro. We've also initiated some emergency response teams. We've initiated the continuity of operations plan. That includes a broader operations team, so beyond the traditional transit operations and maintenance, we've got a cross-department, cross-functional team with the department heads listed here that all work to lead the performance of our essential functions and developing strategies to make sure that we keep operating as best as we can. And in these times, these dark times, these gloomy days, stars can't shine without darkness. We certainly have plenty of stars here and achievements and work to celebrate. I'd like to review some of those, but by nature, any list like this is going to leave some folks off. So this is not all exhaustive, but just some highlights to really say thank you and shine a spotlight on the efforts of so many teams here at Metro. Our procurement team is performing their nonstop efforts to find PPE and sanitizing agents wherever they can to make sure that everybody's taken care of and we're operating as safely as we can. Our facilities and vehicles continue to be treated with a virus-killing treatment. The facility teams also completed the downtown move, and those of us down here are very thankful for that. Our safety department, they've really been guiding us throughout this entire process, making sure they're in touch with what's happening in DC, in the industry, locally, with regular updates to keep us fully abreast of the situation. And one recent highlight of that is we've distributed cloth reusable masks, and those will be available throughout the organization. Our fleet maintenance team has designed and installed safety shields for the operator area as we return to collecting fares. And to just stay on that point for a little bit, Monday, we received the direction from the city to return to collecting fares, and in 5 days, our internal team designed these shields, procured the materials, which procuring anything today is a challenge in itself, and they've installed these shields to protect the operators. As we've rolled them out, we continue to evaluate their performance and identify problems, most importantly, find solutions to fix the problems. We've now shifted to some upgraded materials, the most important being a lighter weight and sturdy aluminum that's going to address the durability concerns that we're having, and we will be refitting the shields today. We had already installed approximately 145 shields, with 20 buses currently without shields. But to protect the operator when that happens, that operator is returning to using the chain barrier to keep that safe social distance for the operators. We're using the rear boarding that we've become familiar with, and not collecting fares until we can fix the shield, because the operator's safety is first and foremost in our mind in transit operations. These materials are arriving today, and as the upgraded shields are ready, we will swap out for the buses that have the failed shields. We expect to refit about 50 of those today. Our crew will be working through the night to get these installed throughout the fleet. Wednesday morning, we expect to have all buses with a functional shield, either the prior version or the new upgraded variety. And by Thursday, we expect to have already fully refitted the entire fleet that we're using right now with the upgraded shields. But we'll continue to monitor and troubleshoot issues as they arise with the shields, and keep identifying solutions to try to stay ahead of this problem. Which brings me to the transit operations team. And first and foremost, our bus operators. They are very much the unsung heroes from the front line of society's fight against this virus. They're right up there. First responders and the healthcare workers. They're out there, any elements, providing the essential services. And we owe them our gratitude and certainly our best efforts. Our HR team has created a pandemic leave policy as they monitor the regulatory news out of Washington, an evolving regulation in terms of the emergency paid sick leave and pandemic leave. And HR has also been running point on individual employee contact and counsel as employees deal with either positive diagnosis or symptoms or family-related concerns. HR is doing a great job taking care of our employees on those fronts. Moving on to IT, we could spend the entire presentation about the successes that IT has had. Some of them already highlighted previous committee meeting, but we've moved our IT infrastructure. We expect that power system and outages are now a thing of the past. We've got new phones and access at the sales office downtown in Huntington, and at the garages. That upgrade is already underway. I've mentioned the communications team and the incredible amount of timely, informative contact that they're putting out. And last but certainly not least, our access and customer care center. They've been dealing with a partial transition of operations, and now are into a two-phase restart of all operations that's already underway, including the customer service functions. We continue to also find ways to take care of our own, our employees and our administrative staff. We're maximizing all telecommuting capabilities. We have mentioned the pandemic leave policy that is in place should folks have need of that policy. And to wrap up the good news, Michelle mentioned it. I would like to mention it as well. It's truly an honor to today mention Donna's very special work anniversary, being at Sortie for 40 years, which she said she started working when she was 9, so we're very grateful for her years of service, certainly from a very young age. But Donna has shown a tireless work ethic, a dedication to the organization and its people. She's led an absolutely one-of-a-kind career with so much more to come. There's nobody like her, which makes us very fortunate and blessed to have Donna. She's our guiding compass, and without her, we'd be lost. So thank you, Donna, for your service and your continued service. You're here.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm not sure about that one-of-a-kind comment, though, John.
I don't know if we could do with another one, but
Everybody just has to know that in an organization, there's not every organization is fortunate to have someone like Donna, but when you have someone like Donna, you just know that what a value it is. You also know that she knows all the secrets.
Yes.
You need to know what's really going on, what really happened. She's got the real story.
Well, thank you, Brendan. It's been enjoyable, and I'm still enjoying it today. That's why I'm still here. Of course, the leadership we have now, in my honest opinion, is much improved over the past few years. So that makes my life easier and my job easier. So thank all of you also.
We appreciate you, Donna. All I mean is that you somebody who has 40 years of experience in an organization just understands kind of the rhythm and the culture of a place very uniquely. And so it's sometimes called institutional knowledge in history, although that lends itself towards a longevity and age sort of thing. And we're glad that you're 49 years old and that you've got at least another 15 years to go before you leave us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This place wouldn't be the same without you, Donna. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt is going to give us ridership reports. John, thanks for the good news and thanks for presenting that. I don't think we can say it enough, and I hope we spend some time talking about it at our board meeting next week. But the team has just done an incredible job, and to think about outfitting buses with shields essentially overnight, to think about how you've moved during a global pandemic. All of the things that have had to happen to make sure that a system operates the way it is. It's incredible. And I think of our team at Metro much the same way we think of, I've said this before to Mary, the people who work for Jancoa, who are out there in offices every day, and they're not working from home. And the same way you think about people who are working in a grocery store or taking care of families. So you are indeed on the front lines, and we're really grateful. Matt, why don't you take it away with the ridership report?
All right, good morning. Hopefully you can all hear me. So we go over the ridership report for March 2020. Just keep in mind as we go through this, the service changes that happened recently did not happen until March 29th. That includes free fares and going to the Saturday modified schedule. So keep that in mind. We have almost a full month without those changes. So beginning on the fixed route side, the total ridership was 780,000, which was about 259,000 or 24.9% below our budget. Local ridership was 739,000, which is 229,000 or 23.6% below budget. Our express ridership was 41,000. It's about 30,000 or 42.5% below budget. And year-to-date ridership's about 3% off or 91,000 rides below budget. Next slide. Passengers per hour for local service was 13.7, which is 7 below KPI. Passengers per trip for express was 8.6, which is 7.6 below budget KPI. And our average weekday ridership was about 31,000. Saturdays was 13,000, and Sundays just under 10,000. The local route cost per passenger was $8.52, which is $2.95 above KPI. Express rail cost per passenger was $20.90, which is $11.90 over KPI. And moving on to missed trips for March, we had 91 missed trips. Of those, the highest number was traffic, mechanical, and lead operations. And moving on to access, total ridership for March, 11,900, which is 8,100 or 40.6 below budget, 40.6% that is. And year-to-date ridership is 48,646, and that's 8,164 rides, or 14.4% below budget. And the access cost per passenger was $46.48, which is $14.48 above the KPI of $32. And our cost recovery was 8.84%. That's 5.16% below KPI of 14%. And as always, the route by route KPIs are available in your board book if you'd like additional information.
Are you all getting the different version of access right now? The different, I know we had closed the garage, closed the access. What's the status right now?
The status right now is access is back in operations. During the time that the access garage was closed, we were actually using a third party to transport the passengers. So we didn't stop transporting passengers. We just used a third party for those 2 weeks. We are now back in operations. The other thing is
the operators are, everybody's okay?
We had 2 operators and 1 call center employee test positive. They are not back. But we're taking temperatures every day of the people that come in access. We had the garages and the buses all cleaned very thoroughly. We've sprayed. We're taking extreme precaution to protect our employees and our customers.
The other thing, like 90%, something like that.
Yeah, ridership is down. Access ridership is down 90%.
I have a question about taking people's temperature. Do you require that the temperature be taken, or do they voluntarily provide their temperature? How does that work from an HR perspective of taking someone's temperature before they come to work?
They're voluntarily allowing us to take their temperatures, and we actually have a third party in doing that.
Thanks.
The other thing,
Carol, what third party are you using? What third party are you using for the temperature?
TriHealth.
I'm sorry?
TriHealth.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I believe Craig said it a little earlier. I'm not sure if it was in this meeting. Prior to this pandemic explosion, our ridership for the year was actually higher than our ridership of 2019. That is for January, February, and for the first half of March. Through the first half of March, we were actually, our ridership was up about 600 rides per weekday above last year. Our ridership for January, February, and the first half of the month was above 2019. So we had really started a trend of increasing our ridership.
Hey, Daryl.
Yes?
Just a question back on the testing. If an employee is tested, has a fever, what is the protocol at that point?
At that point in time, they do not come to work. They go back home, and HR contacts them to talk about how to move forward.
No. So they are getting tested. They're able to get tested.
They're getting their temperature. They go back to their position for the test. We're not testing people.
Okay. But I mean, you're not helping them to access the test.
Absolutely. Our HR department is available for all of our employees to help them navigate these very difficult times.
Right, but that's their primary doctor's decision.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? Colin?
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Again, good morning, everybody. As you recall, last year we joined the NeoRide Consortium along with 10 other agencies, and through that consortium we acquired the current fare payment system in Asabi and the Transit App, which got implemented first phase of that project. The second phase was to install the validators on board the vehicle buses to validate the passes. Currently, the passengers using the fare app will show their phone to the driver, and the driver will verify that they have the valid pass and let them ride. So the second phase was to install, as I said, the validators, so we relieve the drivers from having to check the fares and validate them, and have drivers just focus on their main task, which is to drive the bus and provide good customer. So, along with the other agencies who are part of the NeoRide Consortium, we applied for a grant through the state last year, and we sort of received $1,148,000. The other agencies also received their shares of that grant. And the grant purpose was to install the validators, electronic validators on our fixed route and paratransit vehicles. So with that, we're moving forward with this phase along with the other agencies who are part of NeoRide. And the total cost of the project is $1,319,000. As I said, $1,148,000 is for the grant. That would give us opportunity to install 440 units. Well, actually about 400 units. The rest is our spares to retrofit our entire fixed route and paratransit fleets. With that, the staff recommends that the board approves a resolution authorizing the CEO or the CFO to execute a 3-year contract with Masabi at a cost not to exceed $1,319,000 and $30. And this will provide us with the opportunity to put both fixed route and paratransit vehicles. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Sounds like this is a positive benefit from the NeoRide partnership.
Absolutely. It's been a great opportunity for us to join them and take advantage of all of these grants applications. It's given us more strength and to get more money and also better prices for the vendors.
Fantastic. All right, I will. Let's do a motion and a motion, please.
So move.
And a second.
I'll second.
We have a proper moved and seconded motion on the floor. Any questions?
I have one question just to make sure. This can accept tickets, passes, phone apps, all kinds of fare payments?
Yes, that's a very good question. Indeed, yes. So with that unit, and I think in your package there should be a 2-page summary of the unit itself. And through that unit, you can scan your phone, which will really validate your pass. Also, if you have a printed ticket, you can scan that. It has the QR code. Also, another advantage of that particular unit is it will also communicate with the chips. So if we do some kind of program with, let's say, University of Cincinnati or other of the colleges here, or employee IDs that have the correct chip, then that also can be read by that same unit.
Thanks. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Brendan, if it's okay, I'd like to ask a question. Coming off the IT audit that we just had in Finance Committee, are these secure and kind of meeting any of the security requirements to just make sure that this is
the unit itself is the VAR 100 that has the special feature of EMV, which stands for Euro Day. And that EMV has its own security protocol that makes it PCI compliant. And so any transactions through that unit, especially if in the future we want to allow it to use, for us to use credit cards for payment,
Any further questions? So we have a resolution here to approve a contract with Wasabi to procure and install onboard electronic fare validators. Properly moved and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed, same right. Okay, no opposition. I think this can go on the consent agenda for next week. Thank you. Are there any other questions or any other new business to come before the committee?
Brendan, one issue is today is also Lynn's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Donna, are you gonna sing?
No, that's Daryl's job around here. We assigned that to him.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Daryl
Yes,
goes for it.
I can't control that.
Donna's not going to see her 41st year at Metro after that. All right, we will be back here, I believe, next week around the same time. Gwen, I hope you turn your camera right side up for the next meeting.
Okay.
You're doing the Who Sang Dancing on the Ceiling. Was that Lionel Richie?
Yeah, all right.
There you go. Okay, missing all of you in person.
Side up on mine.
What's that?
She's right side up on mine.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe you're upside down. You're upside
Gwen, you are straight up upside down on mine. Everybody else.
She is on mine too. That's weird.
Wow.
I'll send you a picture, Gwen. I'm missing all of you in person.
You're good on mine, Glenn. You're good on mine.
I'm glad we had no interruptions.
Brendan.
I'm glad we had no interruptions today. I hope you all enjoy your Tuesday or whatever day it is here in global pandemic world. So be safe and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Brendan.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Take care. Stay healthy.